Okay, the next thing for this particular chapter that we're going to focus on is understanding what particular characteristics are necessary to be considered living, right? Characteristics for life is what we call them. So some of the things that we need to really think about is what particular processes your body carries out so that you know that you're alive. Perhaps you know that you're alive because of a heartbeat. Or maybe you know that you're alive because of breathing. Maybe it has to do with your senses. Maybe it has to do with moving around, being able to walk, right? Characteristics of life, things that help you figure out whether or not something is alive. How do we determine those characteristics for humans? So really what we're talking about is focusing on metabolism. Us recognizing that there are physical and chemical events. There are actual processes going on that have to do with you being able to function, get energy, use energy, right, release your energy. So when we talk about metabolism, what we're really talking about is all of the chemical reactions. For those of you that were in biology last year, you should know that when we talk about metabolism, we talk about all the chemical reactions. Oftentimes, metabolism is something that is mislabeled. We talk about having a fast metabolism, and we equate it with digestion. That's not the case. Metabolism is everything. It's heartbeat, it's breathing rate, all right, as well as digestion, utilization of your energy. It's a lot of different things all into one. So having a fast metabolism doesn't just mean that you digest your food quickly, right? So some of our characteristics of life, some of our things is movement. Right? Movement is a characteristic of life. Being able to actually move from one location to another. We're specifically focusing on characteristics of humans, all right, of people. And movement is, in anatomy and physiology, what we determine or what we consider one of the characteristics of life. So even though not everybody actually moves, all right, physically from one place to another, we have involuntary movement, all right? Involuntary movement is going to be the idea that fluid moves through your body, all right? This could be something like osmosis, all right? Osmosis is going to be moving water from one location to a next, high concentration to low concentration, all right? And that movement is going to just happen involuntarily. It's not actually going to be something that's within your control. In addition, we have responsiveness, all right? And by responsiveness, what we mean is reacting to a change. So, and that thing that you respond to is considered a stimulus, all right? Stimuli for plural, right? What we're talking about here is the idea of responsiveness is if you were to reach onto a stove and by accident you were to touch that hot stove, there would be a response. The stimulus would be that heat, that hot burner, and your response would obviously be that you would quickly pull your hand away, possibly say ouch, maybe some other choice words, but that would be your response. You respond to these particular changes in your environment, to the things that are happening to you. In addition to actually having that conscious responsiveness, there's unconscious responsiveness or involuntary. So right here, we have an example of an involuntary response. The idea that if you have a lot of carbon dioxide in your blood, so you're working out really, really hard, your body is producing plenty of carbon dioxide as it's using its energy in cellular respiration, right? You start to get a buildup of carbon dioxide in that blood. As a result, there's going to be an increase in the breathing rate. That means that more oxygen will come in and all of that excess CO2 will be able to be expelled or exhaled in your breathing. So responsiveness is going to be a crucial characteristic for life, for organisms to be able to respond to their ever-changing environment. Growth is another example, all right? And by growth, we're not talking about a change in shape, all right? By growth, we're not really focusing on necessarily gaining weight. We're really talking about increasing size, growing, all right? More cells, all right? We're talking about the cells needing to be replaced, and instead of them only being replaced, we're exceeding the loss. So this is the idea that you are building more and more and more of these particular cells, right? And by building more, you're actually growing in size. So all living things, all organisms are going to actually grow. In addition, one of the other key characteristics of life is reproduction. It's natural that organisms want to reproduce. Nature says that a species wants to continue. All right? Reproduction is how organisms continue on that species. The idea that the continuation depends on there being new organisms created. All right? And in order for those new organisms to be created, all right, there needs to be the process of asexual or sexual reproduction. Obviously, in the case of humans, we're talking about sexual reproduction. In addition, reproduction also occurs at the cellular level, right? At the cellular level, the cells need to be able to reproduce. That particular reproduction that we're talking about is mitosis, right? For growth and repair. Just for typical maintenance, there needs to be reproduction of cells in order to maintain life. Respiration. Oxygen coming in, right? So we should know that when we talk about respiration, we can talk about cellular respiration, oxygen going in, carbon dioxide coming out, and what we end up with is that that energy from food. So we should know that the oxygen and our glucose, C6H12O6, are what are going in, and as a result, what's going to be coming out is carbon dioxide, we've got some water vapor, and we've got ATP, that energy, all right? So that's what we mean by respiration. When we're talking about respiration, we're really not focusing so much on breathing as much as we're talking about cellular respiration and the process of cellular respiration for obtaining energy. Digestion is another key characteristic for living things. Basically breaking down what you eat and what you consume into a simple form, right? The reason that that food needs to be broken down is so that it can be absorbed into the bloodstream and can be carried through the cardiovascular system to all of your different cells. So the idea of eating a piece of bread, your body doesn't absorb bread, but it will absorb glucose molecules from the bread. As that carbohydrate gets broken down into more simple sugars, right? We know that a carbohydrate is a complex carbohydrate is bread. That should be a polysaccharide that as it breaks down, it becomes a disaccharide, monosaccharide, and such. So it's important for that digestion to occur so that nutrients can be absorbed. Linking to that is the idea of absorption. Substances need to be able to pass through. We know that when we talk about a cell, we've got carbon dioxide that needs to be able to get out. We've got oxygen that needs to be able to get in, right? We've also got water that's traveling in both directions, in and out. We have nutrients that need to come in. Right? There's all these different things that need to be able to pass. At the same time, right, we have lungs. Please bear with my atrocious drawings. Right? You have your lungs, which are bringing in your air, right, is moving through. And as a result, we need to have all of those blood vessels, right, that are around our lungs, and the oxygen needs to actually be able, this is our blood vessel, we need to be able to have oxygen that passes from outside into the bloodstream. And then once it actually gets to a cell, it needs to pass the other direction. All right? So it's important for absorption to take place. The most common place is when we're talking about digestion. All right? Obviously, what you digest needs to be absorbed. Circulation is important. All right? Circulation is another characteristic of life. The idea that these substances are going to travel through your body fluids. All right? You've got nutrients, you've got carbs, you've got your fats, you've got your proteins, vitamins, minerals that are necessary for traveling around the body, and gases at the same time. They all need to be carried through circulation. So when we talk about fluids, all right, we're talking about water, all right? When we talk about nutrients, we're talking about carbs, we're talking about fats, which is a lipid, all right? We're talking about proteins, minerals, vitamins, right? We talk about gases, we're talking about oxygen, we're talking about carbon dioxide. So all of these things need to actually be transported around the body to make it to all of the cells. Assimilation, all right, is another one of the key characteristics for living things. This is the idea that different molecules can be changed, all right? This is really what we were talking about before, all right? When we talked about respiration, we talked about cellular respiration being one of our other characteristics, and the idea that you can put glucose and oxygen in, and what you can get out is carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. We've got all of our basic atoms. We've got our carbon, we've got our hydrogen, our oxygens, and the same thing on the other side, carbon, hydrogen, oxygens, all right? But the difference is that we've changed them, all right? We've taken those molecules and we've converted them into another form. So the idea of breaking things down, complex into simple forms, right? Or digestion, like respiration, respiratory system, circulatory. All these different systems require the ability to transfer molecules, change them from one thing into another. And excretion is our last characteristic of life. In order for living things to survive, wastes need to be removed. And by waste, I'm talking about carbon dioxide. I'm talking about water vapor being a waste. I'm talking about fecal matter being waste, right? I'm talking about urine being waste. I'm talking about a lot of different things, but the idea that what's produced by your metabolism as waste needs to be gotten rid of, all right? It can't be something that sticks around in the body or it will become toxic to the body.